I used to believe that fear needed darkness, abandoned places, or something visibly dangerous to exist. But that belief slowly disappeared the night I stayed late at the office and realized that familiarity does not make a place safe. It only makes the change harder to accept. The office where I worked was not old or creepy by design. It was modern, clean, and made almost entirely of glass, built on the outskirts of the city where land was cheaper and silence was more common than traffic. During the day, sunlight poured in through every wall, reflecting off white desks and polished floors, and the constant noise of phones, conversations, and typing made it feel alive in a way that was almost comforting. At night, however, that same openness felt exposed, like there was nowhere to hide if something went wrong. That evening had started like any other long workday. I had stayed behind to finish a report that had been delayed by meetings, emails, and interruptions, telling myself it would only take another 30 minutes, maybe an hour at most. I remember the sky outside the windows slowly changing color, from pale blue to deep gray, and then finally to black, until the city lights below became the only source of warmth in the view. By the time I looked up from my screen again, the office was nearly empty. Most of my coworkers had already left, their chairs pushed in neatly, their monitors dark, their personal items still sitting on their desks like they planned to return in the morning. The air conditioning had shifted to its nighttime setting, making the air colder and drier, and I found myself rubbing my arms without really noticing it. The silence was the first thing I truly became aware of. Not complete silence, but the kind that makes you notice every small sound, the hum of the lights above me, the distant vibration of machinery somewhere in the building, and the faint echo of traffic far below, muffled by layers of glass and concrete. My own breathing sounded louder than it should have, and every time I moved in my chair, the fabric seemed to scrape against the room. Still, I didn't feel afraid. Not yet. I saved my work carefully, double-checking that the file had uploaded, then shut down my computer and stood up, slinging my bag over my shoulder. The movement made the blood rush in my ears for a moment, and I paused, waiting for the dizziness to pass, telling myself I was just tired. That was when I heard it. A chair moving. It wasn't close and it wasn't loud, but it was clear enough that my body reacted before my mind did, my shoulders stiffening, my breath catching as I froze in place. The sound came from somewhere deeper in the office, near the conference rooms where the lights were already dimmed. I stood there, listening, counting the seconds. Nothing followed. I tried to explain it away, telling myself that buildings settle at night, that air conditioning systems shift, that chairs roll slightly on smooth floors when the temperature changes. I had heard all of that before, and normally I accepted it without question. This time, though, the explanation felt thin. I called out softly, asking if anyone was still there, half hoping a cleaner or security staff member would answer and make me feel foolish for overreacting. No one replied. As I began walking toward the elevators, my footsteps echoed unnaturally, each step sounding sharper and more deliberate than it ever did during the day. Motion sensor lights ahead of me turned on one by one, illuminating empty cubicles and narrow walkways, and each time a new section of the office lit up, my eyes scanned it automatically, searching for movement. I became acutely aware of my surroundings in a way I hadn't been before. The faint smell of cleaning chemicals in the air, the coolness of the floor through my shoes, the way the glass walls reflected my own silhouette back at me as I passed. When I reached the hallway near the meeting rooms, something felt off immediately. One of the doors was open. It wasn't wide open, just slightly ajar, but enough to reveal a thin line of darkness inside. That room was always locked after hours. It was part of office policy, something drilled into us during training, and seeing it open triggered a quiet sense of unease that settled deep in my chest. I stood there longer than I meant to, staring at the gap, listening for any sound from inside the room, but all I heard was the steady hum of the lights behind me. Slowly, I reached out and pushed the door open. The room was empty. The long table was clean, the chairs neatly arranged, the whiteboard wiped spotless, and for a brief moment relief washed over me so strongly that I almost laughed at myself. I turned to leave, already preparing to forget the entire thing when the lights inside the room shut off. Not flickered, not dimmed, they turned off completely. The hallway lights remained on, casting a sharp contrast between the bright corridor and the darkened room behind me, and something about that sudden change made my skin prickle. I didn't wait. I walked quickly toward the elevators, my heart beating faster now, my thoughts racing as I tried to maintain control over my breathing. I told myself that if I could just get out of the building, everything would feel normal again, that fear couldn't follow me outside. As I waited for the elevator, I heard footsteps. They were slow, measured, and unmistakably real. Each step was spaced evenly apart, not hurried, not dragging, just calm, deliberate movement coming from behind me. The sound of them echoed through the hallway, and I realized with a cold clarity that whoever was walking did not want to be heard, but also did not care if they were. I didn't turn around. I stared at the elevator panel instead, watching the numbers light up one by one, my reflection faintly visible in the metal surface, my face pale, my eyes wide. The footsteps stopped just a few meters behind me, close enough that I felt the absence of sound more strongly than the noise itself. The silence pressed in on me. The elevator doors finally opened, and I stepped inside immediately, pressing the ground floor button with more force than necessary. As the doors closed, I expected to see someone, anyone, standing in the hallway, but there was nothing there. The ride down felt longer than usual. Every second stretched, every soft mechanical sound making my heart jump, and I found myself holding my breath without realizing it. When the doors finally opened in the lobby, relief washed over me so suddenly that my knees felt weak. The lobby was dimly lit, the security desk empty, the glass doors at the entrance reflecting the quiet street outside. I walked out of the building without looking back, my pace quickening as I reached my car, only allowing myself to relax once the doors were locked and the engine was running. That night, I barely slept. Every sound in my apartment felt amplified, every shadow unfamiliar, and I replayed the events in my mind over and over, trying to find a rational explanation that truly satisfied me. The next morning, I convinced myself it had been exhaustion, stress, and overactive imagination. That belief lasted until my manager sent out an email to the entire team. He explained that the motion sensors on our floor had detected movement throughout the night, long after everyone had left, and maintenance had found no explanation for it. There were no cleaners scheduled, no security rounds on that floor, and no technical faults detected in the system. No one joked about it. No one asked questions. We all read the email in silence. I still work in that building, but I never stay late anymore. Because sometimes when the office grows quiet and the lights feel too bright against the darkness outside, I feel the same awareness settle over me again, the sense that the space around me is paying attention, waiting, and that silence is not always empty.